As we progress through the robotics class, we will get to more advanced gear assemblies or just assemblies in general. And because we're moving on to the pool toy activity, there is 1 to 2 builds that I'm going to show you that's going to help you with movement for your pool toy. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is what's called the crank and slider. We're going to zoom in here on this. You have a thin piece of a rod that's flat and then you can fit screws through. Then you have a slider. Then you have a track, and then of course you have your build plate, and then where we build it, and then a handle. Whenever we go to build this, it's going to be similar to the sort of track assembly here as we did with the lead screw, but it's going to be vertical up on the top part instead of the bottom here. That's good for movements where it goes around, so it goes up and it jumps around like this. The second one that we're going to do in class this week to prepare you for that pool toy activity is going to be your cam and follower, which is pretty much almost the same as the crank and slider, but you just have a slightly different setup one here like this. And this would give you your up and down movement as well. If we don't do the cam and follower, this is a good reference just to have for next time. You're most likely going to be using that crank and slider or a chain drive or something like along those lines instead of the other assemblies that we've done. You guys are very familiar with chain drives. In fact, your windmills, that's what everyone pretty much did, was those chain drives. So the first one we're going to draw, we're going to go ahead and do our blueprints. I've already set up my blueprint. You can pause the video if you're not doing this in class to get this all caught up. I did my lines, I did my blocks, labeled my blocks, then put the word top at the top, not drawn to scale. And then the last thing I've got to do is I need to put in my title, which this one is going to be a crank and slider. Assembly. I'm going to say reference. Right, so I just wrote in all capital letters. Remember, on a blueprint, we write in all capital letters. That way we can read your writing very easily. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the front view. Then we'll do a right side view and then a top view. And then we're going to change that front view into a 3D look. You need to make sure you use a ruler, and I'm going to switch to a pencil so that I'm able to erase my lines if I need to. You can use a wooden pencil, but we've learned in class that lead pencils are going to be the best for making sure that your lines are nice and crisp, but if you have a wooden pencil, it's perfectly fine. Just make sure that it's not too dull, and you can sharpen your pencil. Alright, so we want to make sure our lines are nice and light so that we're able to erase it just in case we make a mistake. My line's going to be a little darker just so they pick up on the camera. So we're going to put our build plate down here. I'm going to go in by 2. And we're going to go up by 6. In by 2, up by 6. So I'm going to be breezing through this, so if you ever need to pause this to be able to get things caught up, that's perfectly fine. And then just connect your lines across like this. Alright. So the next step is that we need to put in our track. And I'm going to draw this a little smaller than what this build plate actually is. A little smaller than what we usually do. So we're going to put our track in right here. And we'll go in by half. And end it there. Alright. We're going to have one section, so I'm going to erase here. Now if you wrote lightly, it's not a big deal. So we're going to erase here, and this is where we're going to put our slider. piece. And then through here, then we would dash that line so that we knew that this is behind, the track is behind the slider itself. Then we're going to take and do a sharp angle to about here. Remember, this is just a reference, so it's not too big. All right, here's that. And this is going to attach to what's known as a cam. Now the cam, we like to call it the ear in class. So I'm going to bring it in to about here, draw a straight line down like this. Okay, and then we're going to put a circle. A circle out like this. And then it circles around. It's almost like an upside down comma, or as they like to call it, an ear. Okay, there's going to be a screw here. It gets screwed into the actual plate itself. Now you have a screw here, and the way it works is that as this is rotated, this moves back and forth. So we're going to put in our movement guidelines. So that's how that would work, and of course this would go back and forth. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over. Again, if you need to pause this just to catch yourself up, then that's perfectly fine, but I'm going to keep buzzing along just so the video isn't too long. So remember, this is just a reference video, just in case you miss class or you need to learn how to draw it. Okay, so again, do your base plate. We're going to go up by 6. But we're going to go all the way over here, actually, because this doesn't have metal, so we're up by 6. So if you recall, just because mine's not drawn to scale, I still line everything up to where it's supposed to be. So you're not going to see much when here, actually. You're only going to see this piece here that goes above and beyond the plate itself. So I put it here. There you go. And there is an axle through here. So this is how we're going to see for that axle. It should be down here. Which this is where the handle is. Okay, so this rotates around like that. And we do have, of course, our little spacers in here and our locking piece. So just it's the same setup as any other build. You make sure that you don't have metal on metal or anything like that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do the top view. Then everything gets built out from here. You have your piece here. So it stops here. Because this is behind, you're going to want a dashed line. Go. This should be where the little cam is. There we go. So now we're going to do the 3D view. I'm just going to take this front view and turn it 3D. And remember in class I told you this is a quick life hack for you. Just pick your easiest view that you can draw, and we're just going to turn that into 3D, but I am going to shorten it. If you're doing 3D, you're going to want to, you just divide it in half like this. Just so we can see our lines better. So I'm going to put it up about like that. We actually don't need any lines falling that back because that is just the salt. That's just the it's just a solid plate. It doesn't follow back any for us to concern ourselves with. The important thing is showing the cam crank and slider. Okay, so now right up along here, we're going to draw in our track, and then we have our piece that slides back and forth. This goes very sharply across here. Again, it is a flat piece of plate. It attaches to the cam ear here. Just like that. And there we have our 3D view. Now to make it nice and neat, you want to ink this. I'm not going to ink this for the video, but I will later for your reference video. Once you are done, you of course want to sign it and put a date on it so that no one else can steal your blueprint. If your signature's a little messy, you also need to make sure that you put in your last name on the title as well for when you turn it in, so that I know whose blueprint it is. If you have any questions, you guys can come in during recess, or you can come in class for a quick question on how to do this. But we will be working on this together. This is just for those that may have missed it. So here we have the finished blueprint, and it'll be ready for you guys to reference if you need it.